We are excited today to be here with Tim Priebe with TNS Online Marketing. This is the Northwest Oklahoma City Chamber, and Tim has been doing a series of online marketing workshops for us over the last year, and this is actually the first one that we've done via webinar. I'm very pleased to welcome and present to you today Tim Priebe with TNS Online Marketing to talk with us about LinkedIn for leads.
Thanks, Jill. Appreciate that great introduction. So I'm going to run through the plan for today, and then the bulk of the time I will be sharing my screen with you guys. So you'll be able to see what I'm doing while I'm doing it on LinkedIn, and I'll walk you through a few different things. High level today, we are going to be taking a look at how to start conversations and build your company page following on LinkedIn. So those are the two things that the system we'll be using accomplishes. So starting conversations, meaning the whole kind of goal of marketing is to, in part, to demonstrate your expertise, but also to keep yourself or keep your organization top of mind for other people. And so that's definitely what this system does. We've had some great results. I've had clients implement this themselves. We've done it for them as well. And get just a really great response and a lot of conversations started. So especially if you are kind of in a sales position in your organization where you're actually selling, this is something you can do. Or if someone else on your team is selling, then this is something they can do. Or if it's just your responsibility to build up the connections, not your profiles connections, not your personal accounts connections, but build up the following your company page has on LinkedIn, and this will be a good system for you to use. And in fact, it's the most effective way on LinkedIn that we've found of doing this. So I think most of you may know me, but a little bit about me. My name is Tim Priebe. I'm the owner of TNS Online Marketing. We've been in business since 2003, so if my math is correct, that is 17 years now. So we started out originally helping clients just with websites. That's really what digital marketing was back in 2003. But over time, added social media, and so LinkedIn is certainly one of the old timers in social media as far as it's just been around the longest. So really, Facebook and LinkedIn are the two that are still in wide use. That are around. So I've been helping clients with that, teaching, managing, consulting, training, doing it for them as well. My team and I do that. So I've been doing that for well over a decade, certainly the bulk of the 17 years. And I use LinkedIn myself. So I do eat my own dog food, so to speak. And LinkedIn has been a big part of how we've built our business, how we've continually demonstrated our expertise and connected with people. And so literally this very system we're going to talk about today, I was either the first or second guinea pig doing it through my account, and that'll make sense here in a little bit what I'm talking about. But so we definitely have done even this very specific system that we're going to talk about today. So it's going to be a few steps, 5 steps to the system we're going to talk about today. Step 1 we'll talk about is building your page if you don't have one already, and I won't go through the full process, but we'll do kind of the beginning of that process. Second, we're going to request our connections be exported, and that's actually something you have to sit there and wait for, so we're not going to wait. I will show you where to do it, and then I already did it earlier today. Third, we'll write a short message that we're going to send to all of our connections or all the ones we want to. Fourth, we're going to set up the tracking spreadsheet using the exported information that LinkedIn will send us. And then fifth, we'll actually start sending the messages. And I won't, I may do a test messages with some of you here on this call. Like, for example, I know Abigail is on here, and I believe I'm connected with you on LinkedIn. And so I may do a test with some of you here. So we will dive right into it. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here, but I will go ahead and move forward with this. So the first thing you need to do is actually create a company page if you don't have one already. So if you have one, feel free to zone out for a second here. The way you do this to create a company page, you just go up to work up here. And then the last thing on this kind of slide out menu is create a company page. And I should warn you, this whole process is by far easiest and best done on your actual computer, your laptop, not on your phone or something like that. So we will say for the purposes of today that we're looking at a small business, but some of you might be a medium to large business. Some of you may want to create a showcase page. That's something intended for like maybe a new service you're offering or a new product line or a new sub-brand, but you do have to actually keep it up to date just like you do your main page. So be aware, in a lot of ways you are creating more work for yourself if you make a showcase page. And then I don't know if anyone on the watching this today is with an educational institution, but obviously that would be the appropriate choice for you over there. So we'll start on small business though. We'll assume that's the bulk of the people. And then I'm actually not going to go any further than this, but I say that I will fill in some things just so you see what it shows here. But as I type in the name, you can see that it's filling that in over on the right, so you can see a preview of what that will look like. So you really just go all the way through this. I can actually customize this as well, which it won't let me do that one because I already have it. But you can customize the URL. I do encourage you not to just leave it the default. Of course, put your website in here. It's 2020, so hopefully your website starts with an HTTPS. That means it's secure. It's kind of the default. And you'll go ahead and fill in all this information. You'll want to upload a roughly square-looking logo. You'll want to put a tagline in there. They do require that you verify. And then when you create page, last time I did this, someone else on our team handles this a lot of times. But last time that I actually did this, it sent an email to verify your email, and then you approved it, and then your page went live. So pretty straightforward to get started. Once you do have a page, and this is not what this class is about, but once you do have a page, you want to make sure you keep it up to date on a regular basis, share statuses, that sort of thing to it. If you're already using a tool like Hootsuite or Buffer or something like that to post to a Facebook page your company has, you can actually just tie that same tool into LinkedIn as well and post to this page. So it's minimal additional work on an ongoing basis. So now you have your page. So that's step one, and I'm going to walk you through now how to request your connections be exported so you can actually track them. So I will go up here on the top to My Network, and I will warn you this is not completely intuitive. Certain portions of it are, and then there's a step that's counterintuitive. Yes, LinkedIn pages for businesses can have shortcut addresses. If you mean like LinkedIn, .com/whatever. That's what that one I was customizing on that page creation page was all about. And you can also, I believe, edit that later as well. So I assume that's what you're talking about with shortcut addresses. So, okay, so we went to My Network, and then over here on the left, I'm going to click on Connections. And then right up here at the top right, it's not real obvious that that's a link, but I'm going to click on Manage Synced and Imported Contacts. So not only is it not obvious it's a link, but it's not obvious that's where you export things. But now that I'm in here, I can see there's an option to export contacts. So I'm going to go click on Export Contacts. It opens up a new tab. And then usually this will not be grayed out for you, but you'll click on Connections here and then request the archive. I actually have an archive available right now, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Download. That's the one I requested earlier. Okay, so you should see the spreadsheet now. So what we've got here is a list of the connections. It looks like it's in reverse order, so the latest person I connected with is up top. Most likely you will not need all of this information when you're actually tracking things, but there's not just tons in here, so you certainly can use it. So what we will end up doing is copying one name at a time out of here into LinkedIn. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit just since I'm already sharing this. And really you just need to add another column in your spreadsheet and put message sent. And then when you actually do send the message to each individual each individual person, this helps you keep track of who you've already sent it to. And so, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and I usually sort by first name and then last name. I'll actually just leave it in this order for now because it doesn't really matter for our test purposes. But what you can do once you've received this from LinkedIn is go through the names and just see if there's anyone you want to exclude. So if there's people that you decide, well, I don't really want to send them, I don't really want to send the message I'm going to come up with to them, or I think they might already follow my page, which LinkedIn does not. You basically can't tell ahead of time who really follows your page and not, unless, well, you basically can't. There's no way to tell for sure. They don't make it real easy. And in fact, depending on your page, you may not be able to do it at all. So once you get this spreadsheet from LinkedIn, go through and just remove the people that you don't want to receive the message. So that may take you a little time because depending on how many connections you have, I've got 1,863 connections right now. So that would take me a little while to actually go through them. But it may be that you decide, oh, I don't want to do any of my competitors, right? Well, then it becomes a little easier just to scan through all the company names maybe and exclude those people or something along those lines. So we will be accessing this spreadsheet again, but all we'll really be doing is sending the message to a person, copying this out, sending the message, and then we'll just update this to say yes each time we send a batch of messages. So I'm going to unshare this and switch it back to LinkedIn. I've got the spreadsheet open on my end still, so we'll be accessing it here in a minute. So far we've made the page, if we didn't already have it. We've requested our connections be exported for tracking, and really we skipped a step and we went ahead and set up the tracking spreadsheet as well. So the next thing we want to do is actually write our message. So Jill, I haven't done anything yet, but I will be inviting my personal LinkedIn contacts to like our business page. That's correct. So I'm going to start by, I actually have a shortcut set up for this on my computer. So if it seems like I'm about to type really quickly, I'm not. So this is the message I send to people that have just connected with me on LinkedIn. And I'm not super consistent about it. I probably do it about half the time. But this is a message similar to what you'll want to send, maybe even shorter on your profile or to each of these people. So this is going to be a message you're going to send to every single person that you're connected with or that you've at least left in that spreadsheet. So you want to make sure it doesn't sound salesy, doesn't sound needy, doesn't sound cheesy. You're not trying to fool people into thinking that this is a message you're just sending to them. But then again, you want to get some responses from it. You want people to actually respond to it and maybe even do what you're asking them to. So the shorter, as a rule of thumb, the shorter you can make this, the better. So this is a little bit longer, but not the one I would send if I were sending all of them at once. So I might send something like, in fact, I might just edit this one down. Well, let me do this. We'll run through and I'll talk through the elements of this message and things you want to be sure to include in your message. So number one, you want to keep it short. The shorter you can, the better. Keep in mind LinkedIn's direct messages. They used to work like emails. They work more like instant messages or direct messages or chat messages now. And so the expectation is they'll be really short and not super long. So the shorter you can make it, the better. So you want to make sure that you give people, so number one, short, you want to make sure you give people an out, right? So give them permission and make sure you include in the message that it's okay if they don't want to connect with you on LinkedIn. Or if they are connected with you. It's okay if they don't want to follow your company page on LinkedIn. So you can see I do that a couple times in there. I talk about not having any obligation. If you can thank them for something, just for being connected with you on LinkedIn, that's great. I actually start with that. So that's the third thing, is thanking them. And then the fourth thing is give them very succinct instructions. Make it easy as possible for them by giving them succinct instructions and then the link. Now you can see I use a special link here that is customized for our company. But if I were to do, let's see, if I went into LinkedIn, I could actually copy can actually find my page after the fact by going in here. And so this is actually how if you've forgotten your page's address, this is how you find it again, which you definitely will need for this message. So I'm going to type in my company name, and then it'll start searching here in a moment. And I can just click on there. And then it's showing me the admin view by default. So you'll actually want to click on View as Member. And then you can see up here is your company name. Now at this there's a little question mark right there. You leave that part off, but copy the rest of it, and that's the address to your company. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that here. And then I could paste that in, and that could be the actual address I use. So Jill, you were asking about the shortcut address. So I don't know, like Facebook, for example, it's just facebook.com/ and then you or your company page name. But LinkedIn, if it's your personal profile, it's linkedin.com/in/your name. And then in place of that IN, the word in, pages have company instead. So something to be aware of just to make sure you've got the right address. So again, we've given them permission to say no. We've thanked them for something. We've given them, made it as easy as possible for them, and then we've made the message really, really short. So those are the 4 key aspects to your message. And again, I would recommend even tightening it up more than this. This is one I give kind of on a one-on-one basis right after they connect with us. So if you're messaging your entire list and you haven't, all your connections or most of them, and some of them you haven't maybe talked to in 5 years, you'll want it to be even shorter than this because you'll be more likely to actually get a response. And just as a reminder, there are 2 positive outcomes from sending these messages we're about to do. So the number 1 positive outcome is you get people actually liking your page. The number 2 positive outcome is you actually start conversations. So you become top of mind. So it is very, very, very common for, depending on the number of connections you have, for let's say 2 to 5% of your connections to actually come back and say, oh, I've actually been meaning to talk to you about this, or I've been looking into whatever service you provide. This is amazing timing. Let's talk. And so that's not that's a very common thing to happen when you do these type of campaigns. Okay, so since we are not all in the same room, this is definitely going by fast. So I don't know that we'll take a full 2 hours, but we will have time for some questions here in a little bit. Again, feel free to jump in if you do have any questions. So again, just what we've done so far, we've created the page, we've requested our connections be exported, we've set up that spreadsheet for tracking, and now we've created the actual message. So as you can see, this part of the process is the short part, right? We're doing all the stuff to prepare to do the actual campaign, and we've done all this. This portion of it, if you don't do this all the time, and especially if you're creating your LinkedIn page from scratch, you can expect this to take an hour to 2 hours for you to get this chunk of everything done, right? You may also be going through all your contacts and weeding out the people you don't want to. But really, this should be, if you sit down on a weekday or a weekend or one evening or whatever the case is, you should kind of plan on this part of the process taking about a couple of hours. The next part is the part of the process that will take weeks or months, just little chunks at a time. So I'm going to go back over here to LinkedIn, and what we're about to do is set up, start asking the connections on our list, sending them that message, asking them to connect with our page, to follow our page on LinkedIn. I keep on saying connect, which is very generic. LinkedIn specifically calls it following. So what I'm about to run you through is how to, the quickest way to go through this process. So LinkedIn does have mechanisms in place to monitor, is someone sending the exact same message to hundreds of people or to too many people? I say hundreds. They don't tell us what that number is. So they say, are you sending this message, the same exact message, to too many people, or even close to the same message to too many people at a time? And if you do, they assume you're using some sort of automated tool and they can blacklist you for spamming. So you don't want to get put into, you guys have probably heard of, or may have heard of, Facebook jail. You don't want to get put in LinkedIn jail. That's a thing also. And so what you need to do is not send all messages to all whatever 1,500 plus connections you have, or however many you have, all in one sitting. Now, if you have under 100, you're pretty safe. You can probably send all the messages to those 100 people in one sitting, but I would encourage you, if you're under 500. So if you didn't know, once you hit 500 connections on LinkedIn, LinkedIn will actually show, I'll pull it up here for you guys, LinkedIn will actually show 500 plus for your connections. So we've got 500 plus right here. And I'm going to go ahead, Jill, I'm going to use you as an example, just because I know I can do that. And you can see on Jill, she has 500 plus, and now I'm actually looking at it so as another person. So if someone else is looking at your profile, they will see this 500 plus on there. I would encourage you not to do this process at all until you have at least 500 connections. If you want to be strategic about your connections, I've got a white paper on our website in the education section that actually talks about how to build a strategic social network. We're talking about all social networks, but we do specifically talk about LinkedIn in that white paper as well. So if you've been just connecting with anyone and everyone, depending on how you're using LinkedIn, that can be a valid strategy. But you want to be sure you're being strategic in how you build up that 500 plus. You just don't want to get there asking everyone and anyone and not having a strategy. So figure out your strategy, build up to 500 plus connections, and then that's a good time to actually do this. Okay, so what we're going to do then is we're going to send out messages to our connections. I'm going to go back to the home page. We're going to send out messages to our connections in batches. So what that means is kind of your choice. Normally we play it pretty safe when we're doing this for clients, and every day on weekdays typically we will send out a batch of 50 messages. When we get in the home stretch, we might do 100 a day for a day or two or three, but we definitely do not go over 100. So I have my spreadsheet open here. And again, all I'm going to do is one column at a time. Or one row at a time, rather. I'm going to go through and copy and paste names from the first name and last name row. And so this is how we do this really efficiently as possible. And so I'm going to do everything short of the very last thing I do. So I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut. You can certainly do this with the mouse. So just so you see what I'm doing here, I'm going to click on this LinkedIn tab until I have 10 open. So open link in new tab. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to do this batch of 50, but I'm going to do them 10 at a time. I can't count and talk at the same time, apparently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 8, 9, and 10. And then I'm waiting for these all to open. And so this is the most efficient way. You can do this the longer way if you're like, that seems like way too much trouble. I completely understand. This is just what we found to be the most efficient way to get it done the quickest. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going over to the spreadsheet and I'm going to copy one at a time names in here. I'm just going to paste them up in this search, and then I click on the person. And then I go to the next tab. And again, I copy and paste. Copy and paste again. Now what you'll find is some people have some weird characters in there, so you may actually search for someone. See if I can find a good example of this. I'm going to skip ahead since we're just doing this to kind of demonstrate. Let's see, this may be a somewhat common name. Yeah, so you can see multiple people popped up every once in a while, or multiple results. Every once in a while, the person at the top will actually be a second degree connection, and the person you're looking for is actually first under here. So you'll want to make sure you pick the right one. And then sometimes you will see someone with weird characters in their name, or they may just have initials after their name, right? MBA or MD or something like that. And so if that's the case, here, I've got somebody that's got some registered trademarks in his name. So if you try to search for someone like this, right, he actually does show up. But if he doesn't, you can actually just delete part of his name until it shows you the right person, and then click on it. So I'm actually going to go ahead and close out these other 5 tabs. And in fact, I'm not really even going to send these emails or these messages, but I'll walk you through the process here. Okay, so what I do, again, we're down to 5, even though I'd normally be doing this in 10. This message button is actually approximately in the same place on every screen. So I just click message, go to the next tab, message, go to the next tab, and so on. And then I message everyone. I kind of paste the whole message in at once, and I found that to be the most effective. So you can see now I've got these all pulled up, and you can see I've messaged these people. Here's actually someone the last message I sent to him was something about this back in 2015. So that's how long we've been using this technique. So again, I've got that. Now I've got everybody's pulled up. I've got the message box pulled up for everyone. So you may have your actual message in like text editor or something like that. Again, I've got a shortcut that I type in, and then it puts the message in. And so I will put that in everyone's. Then I will actually go through, and actually I am going to send a couple of these. So I haven't sent this to Christy before, so I'll go ahead and send it to her. Justin, I have had a conversation with, so I'm actually not going to send that to him. But anyway, you would normally just go back through all the tabs and click send. And so that is the process in a nutshell. So that's actually the whole thing. So again, I would do 10 at a time and then repeat. And normally that takes, about 30 to 45 minutes a day. So this is definitely something that you'll want to work through all your invitations, all your connections that you want to send this to. And what'll happen again is some people will respond. In fact, some people may respond while you're actually on LinkedIn doing this. I would encourage you, pause what you're doing. That's why the tracking spreadsheet's important. Pause what you're doing. Go ahead and have a conversation with them then. If they want to talk to someone, especially right now, right, when we're all under quarantine or whatever, or most of us are kind of on lockdown, if they want to talk to someone right then, go ahead and talk with them right then. And so sometimes if you're a big time blocker, that'll extend the actual time that you're doing it, or you may not get through all 50 that time, or you may decide, well, I'll hit the last 20 later tonight or something like that. But you do this consistently, and you can see my math's not real good, but I had like 1,800 and something connections. So this kind of thing would take, if I do 50 at a time, well, suffice it to say it takes quite a while. So what is that, 36 days solid? If I were to go through, when I do go through and send a message to all my connections. So I have to plan on about a 30-day turnaround when I or one of my team do this through my account. And of course, we don't do exactly this, but we actually use this exact process. Not super often, do it maybe once a year, where I will send most of my connections, or a big chunk of them anyway, a specific message, and it's a good way to start conversations. In fact, one thing you could do right now, because if you're watching this later, we're in the middle of the coronavirus epidemic, but you could actually just go through and literally just check in on all your connections. You could write just a different message that says, hey, going through all my LinkedIn connections, wanted to check in and just see how you're doing. Again, in the spirit of helping, not selling, but just checking in with them, seeing how they're doing. So Jill said, can you see or pull a list of everyone that follows your business page? Maybe. So I know they've changed this. It's been a while since I've checked, but let's just check right now. So I'm going to go jump into my page. I'll go ahead and close this message I have open. And so years ago, they would show you a list that was in a random order. So I can go into analytics for followers. But I think it just gives me aggregate data. And then you've got company, LinkedIn will let you track specific companies. I think these are all defaults for the most part, based on companies I manage and what it knows. Yeah, I think it'll only, Jill, let you see demographics. You used to be able to see a list, but it would put them in random order. And so you couldn't actually see, it wasn't real reliable unless when you were just starting out and you had maybe 10 people, then sure, you could go exclude those people from your spreadsheet if you were doing this. but you can't actually see that. So you also ask, can you see who follows someone else's page? No, you can get this kind of data on their page from here, from this backend. So again, what I did was I went to my page. It defaults to the admin view. I clicked on analytics, and then I clicked on follower analytics. So it'll give you some data for the last 30 days. I think it lets you specify a little better on this graph down here about how often you're adding. You can look at locations. You can look at data about your followers, but you can't actually see a list of who's following. So you definitely can't see a list of who's following someone else's page. But you can get on here and get engagement rates and that sort of information on these other companies. You will find that the bar is actually set pretty low on LinkedIn company pages, meaning, if you look at these total followers and you look at look at number of updates, you can see most people are just not updating. Let's see if it lets us sort by this. No, it won't let us sort by it. You can see most people just don't update their LinkedIn page and don't work on getting followers. You can see that Sandler Training of Oklahoma, if you're not familiar with them, they are a client of ours, and so we've run this campaign through multiple of their team members, so they've got quite a decent following. In fact, one of the best followings I've seen on what I would consider a small business's LinkedIn page. I think they have 4 or 5 on staff, something like that. And then ours is just shy of 1,000, which I probably should work on that. But so yeah, you can see some data about their pages, but you can't see the actual followers. But it is nice to be able to compare yourself to others. But really, if you do this campaign and if you update, kind of tie in with Hootsuite or something and update your LinkedIn page on a regular basis, then you're going to be far, far ahead of most small and medium-sized companies as far as how they're using LinkedIn. Okay, so we've got on chat. So we're a good 45, 50 minutes in here, and I'm going to open it up to questions. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to leave my screen sharing on. Jill, I don't know if you want to turn your video back on or not. I'm not sure how that works when I'm sharing my screen. I can see your video, but I don't know if anyone else can or not. But I'm happy to take any questions if you guys want to ask through the chat. I should be able to address any questions that you guys have about LinkedIn. While you're doing that, I'm going to pull up the ebook I mentioned and actually copy and paste that link into the chat in case you want to access that ebook on building your social media following strategically. So it's in the education section of our website here, and it's just in the first section in ebooks. And we've got a few here, but specifically creating a strategic social network is the one we're talking about. So I'm going to copy and paste that in. I will say this. So I wrote this ebook. It's actually available either through our site, which is the link I'm going to send. There we go. You do have to copy and paste. I don't think Zoom lets links be clickable, which is weird. But you can download it there. Also, if you search for creating a strategic social network, it's likely you'll pull up some Sandler website, a Sandler training website. I mentioned Mike Crandall with Sandler Training earlier as a client. I actually wrote that ebook. So all Sandler offices were able to use it with Sandler branding as well. So same ebook, I created both versions. But any questions? So I don't see any questions yet on LinkedIn company pages, or even if you have questions about LinkedIn profiles or how something on LinkedIn works, I'm happy to answer any of those questions as well. So I just shared the screen with everyone so they can see so we can all be looking at the Northwest Oklahoma City Chamber page at the same time. So tell me, which update are you talking about?
So in seeing this here, like this one, I brought it in from MailChimp and just posted the link. And over here, I had done a picture in here and content directly. So in order to see, this would have been a pretty post. And actually, now that we're past the first few days, this would actually make a lot more sense now, maybe.
Sure. So no, that's a great question. So I don't know. There may be others of you on the webinar that use MailChimp as well. So our company's actually, last time I checked, we were the only MailChimp experts in their directory in Oklahoma. But MailChimp's a pretty common, MailChimp, Constant Contact, there are some other options. But one of the things MailChimp will let you do is when you send a campaign, if you've connected everything up right, it'll also let you share it to some different social media sites automatically. There's a way you can manually do it later as well. But what you're doing is you're actually sharing the campaign itself. And so there's something in MailChimp called a social card that has to be set up for it to look kind of as good as it can. And then it's still not going to look fantastic on all social networks. So I don't know, Jill, do you recall, and you may not, it's been a month, but do you remember if you set up a social card for that at all?
I think I didn't, and I think that the reason I did it that way was that I was in a super hurry.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And so I just kind of threw it up there. But now that I see that it's actually relevant, it's information that's relevant. Now I might just delete it and repost it.
Sure.
Directly.
Yep. So definitely directly is the way. I mean, anytime you post anything to social media, if you've automated something, you're taking away some control, and so you don't get to really see how it's going to look exactly. But MailChimp, so if you are automating with MailChimp, if you actually search for MailChimp social card on Google, most likely you'll see two different blog articles from our website on the homepage, on the first page of the results. And so those are a good example of kind of looking at what MailChimp social cards are, how they work, and why you would want to use them. But in that case, yeah, this is one case, Jill, where if you're automatically posting it, it's a good idea to take. And I mean, obviously, the first time you do it, it might take you 2, 3, 4 minutes to do. But really, the social card, if you're automatically sharing, should theoretically only take like 30 seconds or so to set up right before you send out a campaign.
Okay.
Yeah, the rule of thumb is if your campaign is already linking back to a website, then just go share that website or that web page on social media manually. But if kind of all the information is in one MailChimp campaign, or Jill, like I know the chamber will say, here's multiple pieces of information for upcoming events or something like that, that would be something where it might make sense to share that campaign. Once you've set up a social card, share that campaign to some of the other platforms.
Okay. Tim, you took us through how to harvest the people that follow our individual pages to get them to follow our LinkedIn pages in that. Do you have some other tips for helping us grow our leads list through LinkedIn?
Sure. So once you, I mean, number one, I would continue to do that on a regular basis, not too often, but once a year, once every 6 months, not necessarily, not doing the same ask, right? Not asking them to follow your company page, but just checking in or letting people, it's a good idea to let people know if you've got a new product or something or a new service. It's a way you can let people know. It is time intensive, obviously, so it's got to be worth it for you or for whoever's doing it to actually do that. But, and of course, I already shared posting on a regular basis. But one thing you can do, so I have what I call my cookbook of sales activities, right? So those are all the activities I do on a weekly basis that are completely in my control. And so the two that I do on a real regular basis, and I have a goal for them each week, is connection requests. So it's got to fit into my overall strategy, but every week my goal is at least 2 people. So I reach out to at least 2 people and ask them to connect with me. And then the second thing I do is I will actually comment on what other people are sharing. So my goal is to leave at least 10 comments, not just nice job or nice article, but, something actually insightful, contributing to the conversation, maybe saying if someone posted an article and I did like it, actually saying, hey, I love this, this, and this about the article. So actual engaging conversation. And what happens is, number one, whoever is posting or originally posted that you're commenting on LinkedIn will see that. They'll get an alert that you commented on it. And so it's nice to do. In fact, I'll show you a little trick here in a minute, but so that's definitely a good thing to do. And then the other thing is the algorithm likes that, right? LinkedIn is going to show you to more people if it sees that you're actually engaging in conversations. So one thing you may have noticed about LinkedIn, so time back to commenting on people. So maybe you have a list of prospects that you're working with and you think, man, I'd really like to make sure I engage with these people on social media. I want to interact with these people specifically on social media, even if I'm not talking about anything that we're selling them, or whatever. I just want to stay engaged with them and make sure I'm top of mind for them and interact with them. So on other social media platforms, right, Jill, so I could go to your Facebook page and see what you're actually posting. Or I could go to your Twitter page or your Instagram feed and see what you're actually sharing. So that actually is possible on LinkedIn. It's just a little convoluted. So if you're on someone's personal profile and you do see this activity box, we can actually click on See All, and it'll go over here, and then you can click on the Posts tab, and it will just show you things they've posted. And if you can't find this on someone's, you can actually just steal this in part. You can see how it has his address up here, linkedin.com/in/Mike Crandall, and then a slash. So Jill, I can actually copy this. And then I'm going to go back to your profile. And I can paste that at the end. And that's essentially what that little shortcut I built does. And it will actually show you, or show me, your recent activity. Well, I might actually, Jill, would you be okay if we kind of poked around in the analytics and just took a look at some of the things that you can see once you start being active? So number one, I would recommend you make sure you do a cover photo, which is optional. You can actually just search LinkedIn cover photos and find some examples of some. We've posted a few on our site. But there's some interesting information. So it'll give you at a glance how many unique visitors you've had in the last 30 days, how many new followers, all that, how many people have seen this is roughly how many people have seen your posts. And then there's some other, I haven't messed with custom button clicks. If you're posting something manually here, if you're sharing video on LinkedIn, it is a great idea to upload it directly using this button right here. So LinkedIn used to not have its own platform for videos. You used to just share one that was hosted elsewhere, like Vimeo or YouTube or something. Now LinkedIn will give preference to videos you upload through their platform. So if you have a video you've made and you're wanting to share it out on all social media, upload it directly to LinkedIn to get it the most exposure possible.
Can we use the YouTube URL?
You can, but then it's not uploading it directly to LinkedIn. It's
so we need to put it in as an MP4?
Yes, you would upload it. Yeah, so like if I clicked here and then clicked on, I could actually click, so you can see I have one in here. I don't know what that is. It's probably, it's a webinar recording from a client. But I could upload that MP4 right there and just click on open, and then it would upload and post it right away. So if you're just looking, normally if you reshare an old video, that's when I recommend all social media platforms, you reshare it as a YouTube, that be kind of your, I mean, depending on the goals, but that be kind of your central location for it. And then you can just share it again over time. So if it's older content you're resharing, then definitely you can use a YouTube or a Vimeo link. So let's jump into the analytics real quick here. So let's go into visitors instead of followers, and you'll expect this number to be quite a bit lower, obviously, than your followers. But you can see if there's a specific day when a lot of people went and visited for some reason. You can also see the device. You can see on here red is mobile and blue is desktop. So you would not expect to see huge numbers. I can actually check this box and it'll just combine them all. So, and you can change the time range, right? So I could say I want to do the last 12 months, and that's going to be a lot more data. And I believe it may let you go further back than that. I'm not sure. But then you can look at, you know, when you had what month you had a peak visitors, and kind of think through, was there a reason for that? Was there something you did differently? What could have caused that? And then you can see what role people had. So this can be helpful information, sales. Not too surprising that, oh, this is still the last week. I do the last 12 months. I should end up with a decent amount. So business development being sales also, but then I have a huge chunk of marketing, and then operations. So these are the people, really these two categories for me are my actual target market in general. And then other people I help with the information, but you can see probably really all three of those. So we're hitting about, what is the math there? 20, 34, about 45% of our profiles visitors are our target market. So that means we're doing a good job with our content that we're sharing, essentially. Let's go into updates, and then we can see about engagement and different things. For most of our clients, LinkedIn gets the least amount of engagement. So I would not be surprised if that was the case for you guys as well. You can see I had something here that got tons of engagement. You can boost posts on LinkedIn just like you can on Facebook. That's interesting. You'd think that a table of data, you'd be able to sort that, but it's not, doesn't seem to be in there. So a little bit of information in there as well. See, we haven't done any sponsored posts, so that's grayed out down here. And then we looked briefly at followers before. Perhaps the most useful part of this is you can have companies to track down here and go through different pages. You used to be able to customize that. I don't know if you can anymore. I'm not seeing that option in here. If you didn't know, that drop down does remind me of something. LinkedIn does now have events, so you can create events through your profile or through your company page. They make it kind of challenging to invite. Basically, there's not any real easy way to invite or to get a lot of your people to see that. And if you do create an event through your personal page, I think it's been 2 weeks since we did this. It only lets you invite connections one time. So if you invite 2 connections and then go back and think I'll do the rest later, you can't, you're done. So, yeah, definitely good to know. Jill, you wrote how to research companies and grow desired leads from people who are not already connected with you. So this gets definitely more into the sales arena, but there's a few different approaches to this. So Jill, let's say, for example, you and I were going to meet, and I thought, I want to see some people I want to do business with that Jill may know. So remember that just because someone's connected with someone does not mean they actually know them. So I've pulled up your profile, and I can actually click on this 500 plus connections, and it brings me over to the search page. And so I'm going to go into connections here and just uncheck first degree. So first degree connections that Jill has are people I already know because they're my first degree. So I want second degree, people that Jill is connected with that I'm not. So I'm going to click apply. And then let's say, for example, I know that I want people in Oklahoma City area. So I will click that filter and click apply. And then you can see we're still at 500 plus, not surprising considering what Jill does. And I can either go through that list or I can start searching for a specific company. So let's say I wanted someone at Sandler Training of Oklahoma. I could click on that, and probably it's going to be 0 because I think, we know all the same people there, Jill. But you can go through and filter out the actual company. Or let's say, Jill, I was looking to do business with Devon Energy. So there's a couple people that work at Devon. Of course, and again, I have no idea if you really know them or if you met them once or if you didn't meet them. So what you would do at that point, or what I would typically do, is I would reach out to Jill and say, probably through email or if we had a phone call scheduled, and say, hey, I was on LinkedIn and noticed you're connected with these 2 people. I'm curious, do you actually know them, and are they someone where you would be willing and able to make an introduction for me? And again, my philosophy is to say something like, and if not, that's 100% okay. And so that way Jill doesn't feel obligated. If she doesn't know them, she doesn't feel bad. And actually, psychologically, the studies show she's more likely to say yes if I've given her permission to say no. So Jill, that's one way. The other way is you can actually just, from the homepage of LinkedIn, so if you're not talking about someone specifically, you can actually just use those same type of searches. If you just go up here and click on the search button without entering anything in, it brings you to the search page. And then you can start going through, and let's say I want to know someone from a specific company, but I don't know who's connected with them. So we'll say they're second degree to me, and then I will put in a company like, again, let's just use Devin as an example. And I will apply that, and then again, I'm going to say I want to meet with this person in Oklahoma City. I'm sure Devin has some people that are not in the metro. And so it's got 400 plus results, and I can see right underneath who is actually a shared connection on there. And so if I just scroll through real quick and I see someone I know pretty well, like I know Bob Peterson fairly well. So I could call, again, I would go outside of LinkedIn at this point. I could email or call Bob and say, hey, I'm curious. I was on LinkedIn and I noticed you know so-and-so or are connected with so-and-so. Curious if you actually know them and if you'd be willing and able to make an introduction. And I'm happy to give context before you decide and kind of let you know what I'm looking for. And then take the conversation from there. So it's definitely a good tool from that standpoint. I'm not really using my company page at that point. I am assuming that these people are all have their company page added as a place they work. So that's a good tip, Jill. In fact, especially if someone is just creating their company page. So I'm going to pull your profile up here. So you've done it correctly here. But if your company page wasn't created and you had put your experience on the Northwest Chamber already, it would have something like this, right? It would have one of these types of logos next to it. Mm-hmm. So if you go in fact, I'll actually show you on mine how to do this, although all of mine have been claimed already. So if you go in and edit your own, here it is. So like I could go in and edit this, and then literally I would just delete the company name and start retyping it in. And then you can see it has the icon on there. So it's the one I created. So I can click on it and click save. And of course, make sure you decide intentionally whether you want to share that update with your network or not. For me, I would turn this off with something like that, just because it's not it's not really a change. I'm just connecting it the right way. Mm-hmm. And then other people can search me. And if they go to my profile, they may go through that to my company page.
The other thing you find out through this whole process is how many people started in this several years ago and have walked away from it. Like when it pulled up my list to invite, I'm like, wow, those are people that I worked with like 10 years ago or actually were like 12. And it's like, I wonder where they are now, because I don't think they still work there either.
Right. Yeah, what'll happen is people will either forget about their profile or abandon it, or they will lose access to the email address that they signed up with. So that is one thing I frequently encourage people. You can control which of your email addresses LinkedIn actually shows everyone, but I would encourage you to make sure you have really all your email addresses set up in the back end. So if you ever lose access to one email address, you can actually still log in with your personal email address as well. Maybe you don't want to show Superman fan 1, 2, 3 to anyone, but you're always going to have access to that, so you can actually use it in the future to get back into your account or to reset your password or whatever the case is.
LinkedIn can be just such a really good way if you are trying to catch up with somebody that you used to work with, or trying to find somebody that used to be a contact for you that isn't at wherever you used to know them from now. LinkedIn is about the best way to figure out whatever happened to them and where they are and what they're doing now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.